Do you ever find yourself getting swept up in anger, feeling frustrated, resentful, or even explosive in certain situations? Maybe it's road rage, being rude to strangers, lashing out at employees, or even picking fights with your partner. In this video, I'm going to teach you how I used manifestation to greatly reduce the amount of anger I experience. My life has been much less stressful since I started applying these tricks, and I'm really excited to share them with you. Welcome to Manifest Best. I'm a mindset coach, and I teach people how to manifest happiness. When you master your mind, you can master your reality. So let's talk about how to stop being angry. It's okay to be passionate, and it's okay to experience anger. But when you feel like you can't control yourself, that's when it crosses a line. When you feel yourself dwelling in anger, it's time to make a change. So step one is always going to be self-concept. One of the key ways to stop feeling angry so much is to stop seeing yourself as an angry person. You're going to start envisioning yourself instead as someone who's very peaceful, someone who lets things kind of roll off their back, not that you roll over, not that you're a doormat, but that you don't really let things stress you out. And we're going to talk more about how to do that in this video. But you're going to start by redefining yourself. I know a lot of people say that they have an anger problem. They say that it's difficult for them to calm down. They say that they get frustrated easily. These are the things that you're saying, so these are the things you're going to keep experiencing. Instead, you want to start saying and thinking things like, I feel so much more at peace now. Wow, I'm really starting to notice a change in how I feel. And when this new self-concept starts to set in and you notice yourself actually getting less angry, I want you to congratulate yourself every time. Even if the feeling of anger arises but you don't respond to it outwardly, you should congratulate yourself. You're making progress. And the more that you affirm that you're making progress, the more progress you're going to make. You can also use your imagination to hear the people closest to you telling you how much less angry you seem, that you seem much more peaceful. Have that new self-concept reflected back to you through your imagination. The second trick that I've applied in my life is to make good assumptions. So for example, I used to have road rage. I would always think that people were out to get me. If someone cut me off, they meant to cut me off. They did that on purpose. They must have something against me. I don't know what they could possibly have against me since my windows are tinted. You can't even really see me. But I would always be telling myself that they did that on purpose. What a rude, inconsiderate person. And I would even equate them with being a bad person if they did something that I perceived as really bad road etiquette. I would perceive them as selfish and reckless, and I would attribute that one action as their entire personality, and it's a real problem, but that's how my mind was thinking. That's what made it seem okay for me to flip them off or to hold down my horn and basically be a terrible driver in return. Obviously, I've learned from that behavior. I don't act that way anymore, but I think that it's important to share how bad my road rage was, how angry I used to get, just to highlight that not only is change possible, but big change is possible. I was very angry just a couple years ago, and I think that that was really part of my personality, but I've been able to drop so much of that. I hardly get angry anymore. I am much better behaved, and now it comes naturally to me. Now my mind automatically goes to thinking better assumptions and just reacting more peacefully because I feel more peaceful inside. It's not forced. I'm not trying anymore not to be angry. I'm just not that angry naturally. So if you keep doing these things and you keep practicing them over time, it's not going to feel forced. It's not going to feel like you're holding anything in. It's literally going to become natural for you not to feel so angry. So now when someone cuts me off in traffic, I have a completely different story. First of all, I probably won't even think about it. When it happens anymore, it'll be like a split second of, oh, I avoided an accident, and it will drop from my consciousness. I'll just go back to listening to music or thinking about whatever I was thinking about before it happened. But in the case that it does stay in my consciousness, sometimes I will get angry for just a minute, not even a minute, just like a moment. But now when that anger arises, I recognize that that anger is not going to help me. It's not going to change anything. And so for my own benefit, I automatically jump to a better assumption. So instead of saying to myself in the past, they're inconsiderate, they did that on purpose, what a bad person, I'll now think, oh, that must have been an accident. I guess they didn't see me. They must be in a rush. And make no assumptions about what that split second action means about them as a person. Accidents happen all the time. And that doesn't mean that the person responsible is a bad person. It doesn't even mean that they're inconsiderate or that they're a reckless driver. You never know what might be going on that caused them to drive in a way you don't like, but try not to give them bad labels because of it. So even in a case where someone is blatantly rude to you and their bad behavior is not really up for debate, you can still make better assumptions. Look for reasons to understand their behavior rather than judging their behavior. And that's not to say you should make excuses. You never deserve to be mistreated. But more often than not, you want to give people the benefit of the doubt. Always use your best judgment when it comes to your safety. But if you can imagine a perspective of the situation that's not so negative, you should try going with that. I try to make an effort to understand and empathize with the person, which not only makes for an overall better interaction, but also protects my self-concept, so I don't see myself as someone who attracts rude behavior. By perceiving less things as rude, we are less likely to assume more rude interactions in the future. Simply not reacting negatively to bad behavior will make you experience less bad behavior. A great and weird example of this in my life is with pics. I've noticed a very clear correlation between how I react to and the number of pics that I get. Now, mind you, we're only talking about unsolicited pics. But I've noticed that if I get one pic and I let it get under my skin, I dwell on it, I get angry about it, I allow myself to feel violated, I will get 5 more that day. But if I get that one pic and I just report it and move on, I won't get any more for quite some time. It got really bad for me for a while. As a survivor of SA, I used to see dick pics as a huge violation of my consent. I would get very angry, and I would think that anybody who sent a pic without consent was a... I felt unsafe and unprotected. I would spend my time retaliating every time I got a pic without consent. I would take screenshots, blast them on social media, and report them from multiple accounts. I let them ruin my mood so many times, and I just kept getting more. And the more upset I got, the more pics I got. I took it as a personal attack, and you know what? That got me nowhere. The reports on social media only got their accounts banned some of the time, and my public shaming came across as me looking like an angry person because I was always shaming people who sent these pics. Eventually, I stopped reacting. I stopped opening pictures from accounts I didn't know, which may sound like an easy solution, but at the time, I felt it was my duty to report these men because I felt like they were such bad people and they had to be punished for what they did to me. And although I still believe that men who do that without consent are absolutely wrong and should have their accounts terminated, my reports didn't make much difference. And even if their accounts did get removed, they probably just made new ones. The only thing my anger was doing was harming me, not harming the men who harmed me. As a survivor of SA, when people would send me those pictures without consent, it felt almost like an extension of the SAs I endured. I related them back to previous experiences where my consent was not respected, and that fueled my anger even more. But no matter how angry I got, the only person who faced real consequences from my anger was me. And once I realized that, I turned my attention away from the pics. I stopped assuming that everyone who sent them without consent was a predator, and I stopped equating receiving unconsensual pictures with being unsafe. Now I try to just ignore them. I do report them, but I move on immediately. And when I do slip up and try blacklisting them on the internet, I notice that it does not feel good for me. Okay, so we've talked about addressing anger through self-concept. We've talked about making better assumptions. But what about when somebody does something really bad? We can't just ignore it, right? We can't just let people get away with mistreating us. And as for how to address that, you really have to listen to yourself. I don't believe that there is one universal way to deal with mistreatment. So the best thing to do is just to listen to yourself. And you want to listen to yourself from a place of stability. So try not to make any decisions while you're in the heat of anger. Let yourself calm down. Let yourself analyze your options and do what feels right for you. Try to think about the long-term effects and not the short-term satisfaction of seeing someone punished for what they did to you. You want to make a choice that will lead you closer to forgiveness. Now, forgiveness is kind of a loaded word. As a survivor myself, I used to hate it. I used to hate when people told me that forgiveness was for me, not for them. So perhaps forgiveness in its traditional sense is not the right word to use, but for lack of a better one, I'm going to go with it. Forgiveness does not mean that what they did to you was okay. It does not mean that you deserved what they did to you. It doesn't even mean that you don't think they'll do it again. Forgiveness in this sense simply means letting go. Letting go of your attachment to what happened, letting go of the way it made you feel, letting go of the hate and intrusive thoughts about it. Forgiveness means leaving it in the past and focusing on the good around you now. When I had really bad road rage, I talked to my mom about it, and she gave me a little phrase that would always kind of snap me out of it. And now I use it for everything. I use it when I start to feel stressed or angry or worried, even if I start to feel depressed or anxious. I tell myself that what's happening is very temporary, so there's no need to worry too much about it. One thing that I love about forgiveness is that it opened me up more for self-love. Forgiveness for me isn't about sending love to them, it's about sending love to myself. And be sure to include forgiveness for yourself. I know I've felt a lot of shame for being so angry in the past, but holding on to that shame holds on to that identity, and you need to let that identity go in order to grow beyond it. So every time I'm able to just let something go, every time I deal with something better than I used to, even if I don't deal with it perfectly, I give myself credit. And that may sound silly, but it can really make a difference. So you do want to send yourself lots of love when you're dealing with unfavorable people, but also work towards sending them love as well. Like with the example of road rage, if someone cuts me off, instead of leaning towards anger, I try to veer towards hoping that they get to their destination safely. But I also make sure to send love to drivers who I think are very sweet. If someone lets me in the lane, I will yell at them to have a great day. Usually with the windows up so they can't hear me. But I am aggressively thankful for drivers who are nice to me. And the same goes for customer service people and even the people closest with me. I make sure to really appreciate when people treat me well, because savoring those moments is really great to recall when you're in a situation where someone disrespects you. You can remember you have all these singled out experiences of all the times people treated you well. And anytime someone does treat you well, I want you to also be affirming that this is the norm. So keep telling yourself, I always get treated this way. I'm just the kind of person that people are really nice to. I hear other people talking about bad drivers on the road, but that's never my experience. I just have the best luck. So we've got self-concept, good assumptions, forgiveness, self-love, sending love, and normalizing good experiences. I hope that you found this video helpful and that you feel confident in applying what resonated for you. If you have any questions, please comment below. And if you feel like you could use some one-on-one guidance, you can contact me for coaching at the link in my description. Now I want you to affirm I no longer identify with anger in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe for more videos every day. And always remember, you are the master of your reality.